Welcome back to the All Ball Podcast, where it is all ball all the time. You are here with your host, Sean and Isaiah, as usual. This is episode number 45, and today we're going to be talking about the last two games of the finals and our predictions for the rest of the games. Isaiah, how are you feeling today, man?
I'm feeling pleasantly surprised because this series has been a lot closer than I expected it to be in terms of the individual games. I knew, because obviously at the beginning of the series, I said it would be about a 6 or 7 game series, but the games themselves have been crazy nail biters, tons of comebacks in these past two games, just unbelievable play from both teams, and truly, I'm so conflicted. I feel like both of these teams deserve a championship.
Yeah, you know, what I've really enjoyed watching is Steph Curry.
Oh, and for sure.
I have to ask you, just to start off the episode, how much does this help him solidify him being a top 10 player of all time?
I think even if they lose, this should definitely help solidify, based on these past two games especially, this should solidify him in that top 10, because even in this past game 4, the announcers made a special point to talk about how even though he wouldn't approve of saying this, it felt like he was having a LeBron moment of carrying this team to a win.
And I was about to say that just because it felt like this whole Warriors team during this finals series has been non-existent, especially like we'll get to Draymond later. But
you know, I do want to point out something. While his 3-point shooting hasn't been there, Andrew Wiggins has been very good in this final series.
Mm-hmm.
On the defensive end, his rebounding, both of those especially, have been amazing from him.
Right. And, you know, it makes that all-star starting vote not look so ridiculous now.
Yeah, it's not as terrible since he's the only other teammate that's contributing.
Would you say that Klay's contributing enough, being that he's coming off of that injury?
I would have said yes if we hadn't seen how he played throughout the rest of this playoffs before.
Mm-hmm.
If he had played the way he's playing now all throughout, then we could just chalk it up to, you know, he's coming back from injury. He's not going to live up to his same self. But because he's had these explosions in this playoffs, and even in the regular season, a couple of games when he came back, there's really no excuse for him to be this bad outside of the fact that Boston is an elite defensive team.
Right. I mean, Game 6 is coming up, so we have to watch out for that, for Klay. But what do you think each team has to do for their own side to close the series out and take the win?
I think Boston, they just need to continue to lock in on the defensive end. Even with Tatum struggling on offense, Boston has been in these games because of their great defense and because of Jaylen Brown. But we'll get to that when we get to that. And I think for the Warriors, their defense has been pretty good for the most part. They've had some slip-ups because of their rebounding and also, you know, getting into foul trouble. But outside of that, I think where they need to step up to take this series is to get better on offense.
Mm-hmm. So I know you pointed out the foul trouble. Should we talk about the main, I guess, culprit here of that team?
Oh, yes, we should. Because boy, oh boy. Do you want to take it or should I take it?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and take it.
Okay.
Draymond Green. I believe it was after Game 3 they came out with the stat that he had the same amount of points as fouls, and it was 15. So I just want to get this question out of the way first. Is Draymond Green a Hall of Famer? And if so, is he first ballot?
I do believe that he should be a Hall of Famer. because 3 championships, Defensive Player of the Year, multiple All-Star selections, and All NBA and All Defense selections are definitely Hall of Fame caliber, as we've seen from certain inductions, but
Mhm.
not sure about first ballot.
Right. Because I feel like he's never been a star. I don't know if you'd agree with that.
Oh,
Like
absolutely not.
it's
Even
because
when he was selected to all-star teams, I was always against him being classified as this, oh, the Warriors have 3 all-stars, 4 all-stars. Draymond Green was never truly an all-star in the sense that you think of Steph and KD when he was on the team, or even other guys around the league, like, Harden, Zach LaVine, DeRozan, all those guys.
mhm.
Draymond was never anywhere near that level.
And this comes back to me because we talked about this a couple episodes ago about Klay Thompson not being an actual like real star. It's
Mm-hmm.
more as one of those role players.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah, an elite role player, and I'm glad that you brought that up because that is the exact same sentiment that I have towards Draymond. He's
mhm,
just an elite role player. Defense and playmaking are what he is supposed to provide to this team. Scoring, if he scores, congratulations, the Warriors just won a game because that's that's that is a once in a lifetime thing. So if he contributes that, then you have to win that game.
I
But
want
what he actually provides to the team are role player aspects, I should say.
mhm, I want to talk about this man's scoring, specifically his shooting.
Mm-hmm.
So, like you said, him scoring is not often. And if you're lucky enough to get like 5 points out of him, 6 points out of him, you'll take it. But the thing is, I don't think you'll take 6 points out of him if he's going 1 for 7 shooting.
Mm-hmm.
So how can Steve Kerr get through to Draymond to stop taking shots? Like I know they're leaving him open for the 3 point line, but I think at some point you just have to not take the shot and give it up to someone who has a better chance of making it. If you're open
Exactly.
at the rim, take the layup. But it's
Mm-hmm.
like there's a lot of these shots that at the rim that I've seen that he's not wanting to take, but he'll, you know, chuck up the 3 point shot, but not the open layup or the open floater.
And then sometimes he'll go for the floater or the layup when there's a defender there.
Hmm.
And then why would you pass up the open one and take these open threes and then take these contested layups and floaters when you're a 6'6" power forward / center? That what?
Hmm.
That's part of the reason why Warriors have been getting destroyed on the glass because he's too undersized and he's making horrible decisions.
The only thing I could think of, or the only things I could think of that are wrong with Draymond right now is maybe he's mentally not there right now. Like his mind is maybe not completely focused on the game
Mm-hmm.
when he's actually playing. Um, or maybe the Warriors have kind of switched up the game plan from what he's used to. I mean, I know they're still doing the dribble handoffs with them and everything with Steph,
Mm-hmm.
but even like some of those, it looked like he was kind of messing up on some of those dribble handoffs, and
You
he's one
see,
of the best.
and I know what the problem about that is. The problem is the way the Celtics are defending those dribble handoffs and those screens with Steph. They're defending them drop, which
Hmm.
sounds like an awful idea in theory because why would you ever want to drop coverage on Steph of all people?
Hmm.
But at the end of the day, we see how effective it's been at shutting down Draymond Green when he's in his favorite spot on the floor, which is that upper free throw line area where he can try and hit some great pass. They neutralize that by dropping on Steph, and they say, "Hey, you got to beat us by yourself." And
Hmm.
while he managed to do it in Game 4, in Game 3 he didn't. So it's just a matter of how many times is Steph gonna go for 40 to carry the team in this series?
Right, and really, it comes down to I think, um, Draymond, like you said, Draymond's not being able to hit his shot. So obviously they're going to sag off. And I think they're allowing Steph to shoot because the Steph, best shooter of all time, he's going to hit shots whether you guard him or not, whether you put the whole roster on him, whether you put your fans on him too. It doesn't matter. He's going to hit the shot, more than likely. So even if they double team him, if they don't drop, Robert Williams into coverage or whoever,
Mm-hmm.
there's a chance that he's going to hit the shot. And I think you'd rather take Draymond just doing something ridiculous with the ball because it's been happening the whole series.
Yeah, and I think one thing, and I want to preface this by saying that I am in no way comparing Draymond to this player as a skill level, anything of such nature.
Okay.
But what I want to say is that Draymond needs to look at those open threes the way Giannis looks at them. You only take a couple. If you're not hitting, then that's when you need to drive the ball in. Now, obviously, like I said, not comparing them on a skill level standpoint in the slightest. I don't expect him to drive it in with the intention of dunking it the same way that Giannis does. But
Mm,
what I expect is that he drives it in, maybe collapses the defense, finds a good pass, which is what he's supposed to be doing. But instead, he's wasting a possession, taking an ill-advised three and clanking it off any part of the rim.
mm. And luckily enough, Steve Kerr's competent to sub him out on offensive possessions later in the game
Mm-hmm.
where, you know, uh, it's like once they come off the defensive set and timeout, Steve Kerr will sub Green out for like Porter or even like Poole or Payton, someone that's
Are you? He's even been
anyone.
he's even been throwing Bielitsa in there sometimes.
Yeah. So I have to ask you this question: should Draymond Green be getting with his play recently? Should he be getting over or under 35 minutes per game?
Definitely under 35. If you would have said under 30, that might have been pushing it, but under 35, absolutely. I think he needs
Mhm.
to be somewhere around 30.
And who do you give those minutes to?
This might sound a little crazy, but I would honestly give those minutes to Looney. Let him play more because he
Mhm.
actually has the size to be effective when Williams is on the court.
Right.
So I think instead of having any sort of time where Draymond is on the court as the lone big man while Williams is on the court, I think swap them out. Then that's when Looney needs to be in the game and Draymond can sit out.
Hmm. And for the Celtics side, what do you think Jason Tatum needs to do to have a better shooting night? I know he only went 8 for 23. I mean, he was the team's leading scorer, but
Mhm.
I don't think you'll take that on 8 of 23 shooting.
Yeah, I think part of it just has to do with Wiggins, like I said at the beginning of the series, guarding him.
Hmm.
And Wiggins has been doing a very good job of doing so. And then also just he gets to the rim a lot of times. There's a lot of bodies there, and that throws him off.
Hmm.
But I think he needs to do something to entice that defense to sort of stretch out more. Even if it's not necessarily just him, because obviously there's four other guys on the court on his team.
Right.
So something needs to happen to where he can get more open lanes to the rim. Because I
Hmm.
don't think there's anybody on the Warriors besides Wiggins who could legitimately stop him from getting to the rim from the perimeter.
Hmm. So, and what about Jaylen Brown? Because I think we talked about how consistency is more looked upon Jason Tatum
Mm-hmm.
uh, last episode. So for Jaylen Brown, I feel like he has been a little bit more consistent, except for I think it was game 2 that he didn't shoot that ball well.
I think it was game 2 where he started off pretty bad, but then he got it together towards the end. Or it was either that or it was the other way around, where he started hot and then he started hot and then started to taper off.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, was there anything else that you kind of wanted to talk about? I mean, those were kind of all the questions that I had for today that we could talk about our topics.
I did want to present one last question to you.
Okay.
Do you think Jaylen Brown takes Finals MVP if the Celtics win?
You know, I called it to start this series, and I think it's a little closer than I thought it would be. But like I said before, that consistency thing is looking like exactly how I talked about it. Even like in the win of Game 3 for the Celtics, I think Brown was more effective because he shot better efficiency, even had one more point, more rebounds. It's just a statistical thing, and so my answer has to be yes. I still think Jaylen Brown takes it home.
Okay, and I presented that question because I wanted to say that I've converted. I think that Jaylen Brown takes it if the Celtics win.
Right, because you were on Jason Tatum, right? Okay. Yeah, so I'm gonna stay with Jaylen Brown.
All right, that was it for me.
All right, well, that's gonna go ahead and be the end of the episode. If you like the episode and the podcast in general, go ahead and like and subscribe. Leave a comment down below. And Isaiah, any last comments?
Don't forget, share the podcast with as many people as you can.
But all right, well, that's going to be the end of the episode. See you on the next one.